Hello, BookTube. We're continuing on 8th bookcase, the second shelf, part 2 of that shelf, continuing on with poetry. So I'm going to go right into some more. These need to be organized a little better chronologically and by country, but I'm just going to go in the order I had them. So next I have Favorite Poems of Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, with an introduction by Henry Saddell Canby, illustrated by Edward A. Wilson. This is a Doubleday book. What a solid thing. And the front is there. You see here, this is from 1947. See what we got. Oh, here's some, give you an idea. I love the illustrations. So that would be obviously the Song of Hiawatha, which I absolutely love. So, nice volume. Then, Leaves of Grass, illustrated by Boardman Robinson. This is the Illustrated Modern Library. Introduction by Carl Sandburg, and this copyright 1921 by the Modern Library and copyright 44 by Random House. Okay, yeah, it has some very modernist type illustrations go with the poems. It's quite a volume if you like Whitman. And again, Whitman, this is Everyman Library pocket poetry. This is Alfred Knopf, New York, Toronto. And it's a Boar's Eye book, copyright 1994. Comes a little ribbon marker. Then we have The Cambridge Companion to Emily Dickinson, edited by Wendy Martin. Cambridge University Press. And that was from 2002. So a series of articles discussing the poet's work. Then we have Edna St. Vincent Millay, Selected Poems, the Century Edition, edited by Colin Falk, and forward by Richard Eberhardt. This is HarperCollins Publishers, and this was from, it's a first edition, 1991. There she is. We have 2 volumes of letters here. I'll hold them up together. This is T.S. Eliot. So volume 1, 1898 to 1922. This is a revised edition. Edited by Valerie Eliot and Hugh Houghton. And this is interesting because he knew just about everybody at the time. Yale University Press, New Haven and London. First published in the U.S. by Yale University Press in 2011, but by Faber in Britain in 2009. It does have some illustrations, which is sort of nice, which you don't always get with a letter collection. And then volume 2 covers 23 to 25. That again is Yale University Press 2011, and again the letters and some illustrations, so that's sort of fun. We're going to get into some Robert Frost and quite quite a bit of it. That's just part of living in New England. This is a book I've shown before, Robert Frost, A Pictorial Chronicle. This is Holt, Reinhardt, and Winston, New York, Chicago, and San Francisco. And this came out in '74. Kathleen Morrison. And like it says, it's pictorial and it goes through his life. Good volume. Then we have Robert Frost, In the Clearing. This is Holt, Reinhardt, and Winston, New York. Originally from '42. This one looks like it's from 1960, fourth printing of '62. So here's the title page. And then there's some poetry. And moving right along, is that what I thought it said? We have Collected Poems of Robert Frost. This is Garden City Publishing Incorporated in New York, and it is from 1936. But it looks like it's a later printing. This is 1942. It's printed in the United States of America, American Book Stratford Press Incorporated in New York. So that's who printed it. So here's let's see if they divide it up here. Give us an idea. The Figure of a Poem is how it starts off. So it includes A Boy's Will collection, Mountain Interval, New Hampshire, West Running Brook, Further Range to Taken Doubly, Taken Signally, 10 Mills, The Outlands, Build Soil, Afterthought, A Witness Tree. So a good collection. Then you go to one of those notorious, I don't even know I have this. This is Robert Frost, The Years of Triumph, so I don't even have the whole set. There's not much reason for me to keep this biography. By Lauren Thompson, New York, Chicago, San Francisco, Holt, Reinhardt, and Winston. And it's a copyright 1970 first edition. So this is a part of a multi-volume hatchet job on Frost that I don't even know why I keep. Then you have North of Boston, a very famous collection of Frost poems by Don and Mead, New York. Edited by Edward Connery Latham. Woodcuts by J.J. Lanks. So this is, the poems were copyright from '36 on. But it looks like this edition is from 1977, excuse me. So you'll have some of his most famous poems here. North of Boston, The Pasture, Mending Wall, Death of the Hired Hand. Let's see if I can get some of the woodcuts. Then here is Robert Frost, Poetry and Prose, edited by Edward Connery Latham and Loris Thompson. So Thompson's who we just saw, and Latham's who we just saw. It looks like this is 1972, and Holt, Reinhardt, and Winston, New York. So I have poetry, and then you have some letters from his childhood, introduction to Robinson's King Jasper, 10 of his favorite books, these types of things. So it's a whole collection. And then we have The Road Not Taken, a selection of Robert Frost poems with an introduction by Louis Untermeyer. Which one was I reading? Home Burial I was reading when I put the bookmark in this. Illustrations by John O'Hara Cosgrave II, Holt, Reinhardt, and Winston, New York. And it looks like this edition was from '71. So they have these beautiful, this is to Birch's, they have these little illustrations which are very nice. And then, for the Last of the Frost, another one of these Everyman Library Pocket series. Alfred A. Knopf, New York, and Toronto, Boar's Eye Book, and this is from '97. So it's a small selection. Let's see what we got in here. The Pasture, the Trial of Existence, October, After Apple Picking. So moving on to some other poets. I'm trying to keep this thing going quick as we can here. Arts of the Possible, Essays and Conversations by Adrienne Rich. Yeah, there she is. And this was W.W. Norton and Company, New York and London, 2001. And these are, like it says, essays. And moving along, The Complete Poems of Cavafy, celebrated translation of the great modern Greek poet, translated by Rhea Delvin, introduction by W.H. Auden. I like the cover. It's a paperback thing. A Harvest book, Harcourt Brace and Company, San Diego, New York, and London. It looks like this came out in 1976. So, give you an example how it's laid out. One of my favorite poets in translation, and here's another one. The Best of Rilke, translated by Walter Arndt, forward by Cyrus Hamlin. Another nice cover. Odd use of colors, but I sort of like it. Let's try to get it without the... So 72 form true verse translations with facing originals and commentary in a compact biography, Dartmouth College, University of Press, New England, and this was 1989. So I'll give you an example. So here you have the original, and there you have the translation. So you can make your own decisions if you speak the language. Here's a biography of Paul Celan by John Felsteiner. Paul Celan, poet, survivor, Jew. This one is Yale, Nota Bene, which is a good series. I get a little map there. And this was published in 2001. Original copyright 95. And we got The Literary Journalist, The New Art of Personal Reportage, or reportage. Valentine Books, New York, 1984. So you have some of my favorite here. You have John McPhee, Joan Didion, Tom Wolfe, Richard Rhodes, Jane Kramer, Mark Kramer, Tracy Kidder, Sarah Davidson, Richard West, Mark Singer, Barry Newman, Ron Rosenbaum, and Bill Barrich. There you go. And we have another Harold Bloom, Where Shall Wisdom Be Found? It's Riverhead Books, a member of the Penguin Group, New York, 2004. And he set out to write a book about how reading helps us to live and comprehend our lives. And while he's writing it, I guess he had a close brush with death. And it impacted how it came out. And here's another book about literature. Savage Reprisals, Bleak House, Madame Bovary, and Buddenbrooks by Peter Gay. We've seen him before. I think most recently when we were looking at some stuff by, about Freud. He's a good writer. Freud and Peter Gay. This is W.W. Norton and Company, New York and London. This came out in 2002. So typically readers have been led to believe that fiction, especially the realist novels that dominated Western culture for over half a century, is based on historical truth and that great novels possess documentary value. Stendhal calls the novel a mirror moving along a highway, and most historians have confidently recruited novels to supply them with evidence they might be hard put to find elsewhere. That trust, Peter Gay brilliantly shows, is misplaced. I don't think so. So, that was the end of the second shelf, the second part of the second shelf of the 8th bookcase. And now we really are moving away from poetry a bit and into some literature, primarily to start with here, English literature. So, thank you, BookTube.